Hello and welcome to the Sharp 600, brought to you by Covers.com and presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I am your host, Jason Logan. Welcome to the championship edition of the Sharp 600 podcast. We've got two big title games on Sunday, and big games demand big guns, and we're bringing in the big guns once again. My man Todd Furman, professional bettor, former odds maker, one hell of a gaming analyst. Todd, we only got 3 games left, man. These are big ones.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a big gun after my performance last week, J-Lo. It's more like the pea shooter. And here's the thing. I try and clean myself up. I make sure I shower. I style my hair. I go button-down shirt. But you know what? That didn't work to bring home a 2-0. So we're going back to Bro Todd to try and pick games. But crazy weekend overall in the divisional round. All 4 teams that won the yardage battle all lost. And again, we talk about the NFL in broad context. We love to paint it one way or another. Don't turn the ball over and good things happen. These 4 teams that are still remaining have yet to turn the ball over this postseason.
Yeah, and we get the Super Bowl matchup after Sunday, which is exciting. But we still have like look-ahead lines and hypothetical odds out there. You know, how much should people be paying attention to the look-ahead lines before the official Super Bowl openers hit the board? And then how can we leverage some of these hypothetical markets? You can get this team over this team and this team over this team.
Look, the great thing about FanDuel and some of those hypothetical numbers that you mentioned is that if you bet into them and the matchup doesn't happen, it's a refund. So if you think that the price is going to give you a little bit of an edge, say, for example, you're forecasting Philly to exceed odds makers' expectations and regain some of that form we saw earlier in the year, and maybe there's a little bit of surprise in the AFC game that it's lower scoring, you may be able to get a half a point to a point worth of value. It's not like the old days, though, when I was behind the counter at Caesars, where the conference championship games could lend itself to you getting 2.5 points because everybody wanted to overreact. I just think it's fascinating for bettors to do this with some level of seriousness, to look at what those look-ahead numbers are in the hypotheticals, and then see how the betting market adjusts once we add another data point to the mix.
All right, good information. Remember that on Sunday night when those Super Bowl odds start rolling out. Before we do drop the base on this episode, we ask that if you like what we're doing here on the Sharp 600, let us know. Best way to do that is to rate and review the podcast, like and subscribe on YouTube as well. As we mentioned, myself, some of the Covers crew, we are heading to New Orleans for that ramp up to Super Bowl.
Pack your skates and hockey sticks,
That's
my
right.
friend.
I might have to pack my skates. But we're going to have a ton of great content from the Big Easy on the big game. So be sure to subscribe to the Covers YouTube channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. All right, Todd, it kind of brings a tear to my eyes here. Only 3 games left. Yeah, let's hit the clock. All right, Todd, let's start NFC Championship game. Eagles at Commanders, the trilogy. Eagles -6, total around 47.5. Let's talk spread. What do you see from this point spread?
You know, I think watching the way the number has moved is probably the best place for us to start. We saw this price open as low as 4.5 earlier in the week, and that was kind of the ultimate buy low opportunity for Philadelphia. Amid speculation that Jalen Hurts is going to be out there. Now, if he's 100%, that's one thing. If he's 60%, it's one of those things that you have to go back and forth on with your overall handicapping mental gymnastics. So no shock to me that the Eagles took money initially. You did see some under money come in amid that same speculation that the Eagles are going to have to muddy it up, run the football, and lean into their defensive efforts. But J-Lo, we saw this game not once, as you alluded to, but twice this season. Once on a Thursday night where Jaden Daniels wasn't 100%. Philadelphia needed a second half spurt to exceed odds makers' expectations and get to the window. And the last time we saw these teams play, it was Jaden Daniels leading the Commanders back down 28-14 with a 22-6 fourth quarter. So we've seen both sides of the coin, no strangers to one another, and two fan bases that don't particularly like one another. And this will make the second matchup in franchise history for these two illustrious franchises with everything to play for in the NFC title game.
I was one of those guys that grabbed Eagles -4.5 on Sunday night. I do the bet now, bet later column, and that was the bet now right out of the gate. For me, the edge is the defense. Washington has gone up against some pretty soft defenses so far in the postseason. A real soft secondary from Tampa Bay, and then that depleted Detroit Lions defense, which kept losing bodies throughout that game. But this is a different beast. This is a massive step up for them. Fangio's defense, very tricky. They don't blitz much, which is something that they saw a lot of from Tampa Bay and Detroit. And they always look the same pre-snap. They've had given Daniels trouble already this year, so that's why I like the Eagles in this one. The total you mentioned has ticked down. Let's talk total on this one. Was 48, now 47.5. I mentioned the Eagles defense, but they were able to run the ball with ease against the Commanders this year. For home was 430 yards rushing in those two games with the Commanders. The Commanders gave up a ton of rushing yards to the Lions. Very much so the Eagles could take this game and put it in sand and those extended drives, chew up the clock, and not leave many possessions for Washington. What are you looking at for this total?
Only way for me to look would be to go under the total, especially at anything 47.5 or better. A couple of key injuries. One player we know is out for sure on the Washington Commanders offensive line, Sam Cosmi, and I think that hurts a ton given the interior pressure that Philadelphia is able to generate. And if the Commanders aren't able to provide a balanced attack, it puts Jaden Daniels into harm's way. Now, to like the under even more, we're going to want to monitor the injury report for rookie cornerback Quinyon Mitchell, who wasn't able to finish the game last week against the Rams. Now, Mitchell's post-game comments were a little bit interesting, said there's nothing to worry about, I'll be out there next week. But if that was the case, J-Lo, wouldn't he have gone out there to try and at least fight his way to the finish line in the fourth quarter? So you get an interesting perspective in that regard, but I think both of these defenses, or I should say offenses, want to play a little bit of keep away. Washington's success on fourth down, extremely well documented, and the best thing for them is that they can put together 7-8 minute drives, and if you're an under-better, you're hoping that those drives end in field goals, not touchdowns.
Sirianni said that he expects Hurts and Mitchell to both be playing, but, stick Sirianni. We'll trust him when he proves this wrong. So a lot of alternative ways to bet this game. Are there any props, any other markets out there that you're paying attention to?
Was hoping that Jalen Hurts' rushing total was a little bit higher. Odds makers, to their credit, have adjusted it down, kind of putting it in no man's land at 29.5. If Hurts is going to be limited, he's not going to sniff that. But if Hurts is anywhere close to 100%, he's going to go well over that number. For Washington, look, Jaden Daniels was the only quarterback of the four remaining that threw for more than 180 yards in the divisional round. It's hard to even process that, but I don't think Daniels is going to have to be a pass-first guy in this particular spot. His legs are going to make a difference, and I might be inclined to look at some of those rushing attempts. Even if he can't rip off the big one, I think his legs have to take some of the pressure off the backfield of Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, and maybe even a splash of Jerry McNichols.
Yeah, I took Daniels over half an interception, basically to throw a pick. Fangio took 3 from him this year, and this is a game, too, where he's coming. You look at the change in defensive intensity. This is a much trickier opponent defensively for him in this game. Let's jump over to the AFC. It's the big one. KC and Buffalo. It's the one we all wanted. I do the NFL Underdogs column. And Buffalo was the one underdog that I do like the best in this one. The Bills' offense built differently than those past years where they lost to Kansas City. No longer the dependent deep threat offense. It's not Diggs and Davis out there trying to score those big ones. These are big, burly receivers that are great on short passes, picking up yards after the catch. And I feel like that's a great way to attack this defense, the Spags defense that's very aggressive. And then rarely do we see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs not have the best player on the field. Josh Allen is the best player in this AFC Championship game right now. This is it. This is his legacy game. So I like Buffalo +2. What do you like in this spread?
Yeah, I can't argue it. For me, it's Buffalo or pass. I haven't quite gotten to the window yet with the Bills. It's always tough to try and break that Kansas City Chiefs mystique. And you wonder somewhere along the way when the Chiefs are going to put together 4 full quarters. We haven't seen it yet, and we're in the conference championships. Does it come this weekend? I have some real concerns about their ability to stretch the field. We're going to want to monitor the injury report for the Bills. They need Christian Benford out there to kind of fortify and hold things down in that secondary. But you mentioned Josh Allen's performance, and credit to Allen. He hasn't put the ball in harm's way. He's not taking those risky gambles that we've grown accustomed to in the past. And J-Lo, the question I have for you, what were you doing back in 1992? Because that was the last time the Buffalo Bills went on the road in the postseason and came away with a win. I can't speak to 9-year-old Todd and what he was up to then, but it's been a long, long time.
I was playing a lot of Sega Genesis, NHLPA hockey. That's what I was doing.
There we go. Now we're talking,
like
baby.
a good Canadian boy. I'm looking under on this total as well, too. That dynamic offense for the Chiefs isn't there beyond the Mahomes to Kelsey connection, and maybe it was a little bit of rust because they hadn't been on the field for a while, but I'm liking the under in this one. Any props, anything like that you're looking in this game?
Player props in this one are interesting because I think Josh Allen's still being priced up like that elite quarterback, but he's doing it with his legs and his decision-making. I think the over-under on attempts at 31.5 if you lean Buffalo is a rich number. Look for the Bills to utilize those 6 offensive linemen, and I think it's all hands on deck. It's Allen, it's Cook, it's Ty Johnson, it's Ray Davis. This Chiefs run defense has been a lot leakier down the stretch than it was early in the year.
Yeah, I like the James Cook over 54.5. The Chiefs have given up some big rushing yards to Mixon, and both Steelers running backs went over. Ford had a big game for Cleveland as well, too, so I like his over. All right, touchdown anytime bets for Championship Sunday. Todd, I'm going back to Dallas Goedert, plus 310 to score a touchdown. He didn't get in against the Rams last week, but he takes on a Washington defense much softer, giving up 8 touchdowns to tight ends in the regular season. They allowed Laporta to get in last week. And then for the AFC game, go with Xavier Worthy. He's the only wide receiver worthy of Mahomes' targets. He drew 6 balls. 4 of those were in the red zone. He didn't get in last week, but he did score against the Bills and that matchup in the regular season. So Xavier Worthy plus 200 to score a touchdown in the AFC Championship game.
You mentioned Dallas Goedert, and he has been the key cog in this Eagles passing attack. So I'm going to echo your sentiments there. 8 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown on his resume so far this postseason. 5 catches for 61 yards in one of the meetings against the Commanders. He missed the second matchup. And as far as the AFC game, I'm going to cheat the assignment here, and I'm going to take a tandem of Bills backup running backs. Ty Johnson at plus 750, Ray Davis plus 750 as well. Each have registered a touchdown. Johnson of the receiving variety against the Broncos. Ray Davis from the goal line. I'm taking a flyer there.
Woo! It's 2-minute drill time at our best bets for Championship Sunday. I'm going under 47.5 in the NFC title game. This is the third go-around between these rivals. They know each other very well. We talked about the Eagles' defense being much stronger than the Commanders' past opponents. That run game, being able to stick this game in mud. I think Philly's passing game leaves a lot to be desired as well, too. I think, and then with the Commanders being able to flip those 3rd and 4th downs at an insane rate, I think the luck runs out on Washington. I like the under 47.5 in this one.
And I show a little bit of value myself in the under in the late game. So I'll go under with the Bills Chiefs at 47.5. I know, again, it's not the best of the number, but still some wiggle room. My true total in this game, closer to 46. So if you're going to give me the right side of a key number with familiar opponents, I am going to take it. Yes, the Bills did not force the Ravens to punt a single time last week and gave up more than 7 yards per play. But this Chiefs offense is extremely methodical, and Buffalo wants to play keep away. They're going to run the football. I think big plays at a minimum on both sides for these teams that know each other. 24-21 feels about right. Under in the AFC.
I'm sticking to the NFC title game. I'm going Saquon Barkley over 12.5 receiving yards. It's minus 110 out there. Have we forgotten how good a pass catcher Barkley is as a running back? I mean, the Eagles are going to grind this one out in the ground, but there will be times in which they have to pass the ball because Washington loves to bring the blitz. And if Jalen Hurts is as dinged up as maybe we think he is, he's going to have to get rid of that ball quickly, and Saquon is the guy. He had 24 receiving yards against the Rams. That was his biggest day in almost a month. However, when he played Washington, he had 52 receiving yards in that last matchup. So I like Saquon to go over.
Barkley has shown his ability as a dual threat out of that backfield and paid tremendous dividends for the Eagles. For me, I'm going to go to the man opposite Saquon Barkley in the Commanders' backfield, and I'm going to short Brian Robinson stock. Yes, he had a big day against the Lions, but odds makers have adjusted his over-under for rushing yards up, and this defense much more tenacious on the interior. I think you're going to see the Eagles sell out, force Jaden Daniels to beat them with his arm. Also keep in mind another player who's been priced up a ton is De'Ami Brown, so buyer beware if you're backing him in any of the markets too.
Yeah, and then just the way that Philly plays, they might limit his touches anyway, and then they're going to be playing from behind, forced to pass. So I definitely like that one. All right, that was the horn. That signals the end of the 600 seconds and our breakdown for Championship Sunday. Big thanks to Dell, Todd, FanDuel Sportsbook. Thank you for tuning in. A reminder, please rate and review, like and subscribe. Helps boost the Sharp 600. Get the good word out to sports bettors like yourself. Todd, we're going to be looking at Super Bowl odds on Sunday night. What do bettors need to know out of the blocks with Super Bowl? Is this a rush to the best of the number, or should we be waiting knowing that we have 2 weeks to kind of digest and see the market move?
You know, it's one of those things that if it's around a key number, then if you feel the price is more likely to go from 2.5 to 3, then look to lay it, or 3.5 down to 3. But these numbers are going to be extremely tight. I don't expect a tremendous amount of volatility with the various permutations that are out there. The one thing I will say, if the Washington Commanders do pull off yet another upset against the Philadelphia Eagles, you may finally see their stock continue to be overvalued against the Chiefs and Bills. So that'd be the team that I'd be looking to probably bet against on the initial opener. But if we're talking about the Eagles being the NFC representative, odds makers have had a great read on them, along with the Bills and Chiefs on the other side of the draw. So you have 2 weeks to kind of dig into all of those matchups. And JLo, this is going to be a shameless plug. There's got to be a fitness tracking company that wants to get involved in this show, because there'd be no better experience than if we could put a little wristwatch on producer Dell when he watches the Commanders-Eagles game. And to watch that heart rate go up and down, I can only imagine the range of emotions that he felt in the final 5 minutes when the Eagles had to hold on for dear life to dispatch the Rams in the divisional round.
Oh man, I had Eagles -6, and I was on the roller coaster. We'll keep the defib paddles there. Just so you know, look ahead lines at FanDuel. The AFC team, whether it be the Chiefs or the Bills, they were 1.5-point favorite against the Eagles, a 4.5-point favorite against the Commanders. So that's where that look ahead market was sitting.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd have no problems looking to try and lay the 4.5 with either of those AFC representatives. If the Bills get through finally and they can shed the Mahomes magic, is this a franchise that has been tormented enough that they're going to finally break through? Let me tell you, though, there may not be enough domestic light beer available in New Orleans if we get that Eagles-Bills matchup 2 weeks from Sunday. Let's just put it that way.
That would be two wild fan bases and a lot of fun in the stands as well. All right, we will be back next week to talk Super Bowl 59 odds. Until then, best of luck with your bets. Hey NFL fans, you can make every moment more this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch at FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets will expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.